Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rake the Take, a golf betting podcast hosted by me, Chris Lewis. And this week we're going to be talking about the Valero Texas Open. This is the last tournament before the Masters, which is super exciting. This is kind of right when we really get going with golf season. The past few months, there have been some big events and some things like that, but for most people who are casual golf fans, the golf season really starts with the Masters. And what an event to start with, because it's or if you're really getting into the season, because everybody's there and it's a phenomenal course. But yeah, no, but we still got Valero this week, so we got to get through this before we get to the beauty that is Augusta National. But yeah, there's nothing that's not to disparage TPC San Antonio by any means. It's a decent golf course by its own merit. It's approximately 7,400 yards, and it's a par 72. If you look at the statistical kind of skill sets that you need to kind of contend here, it's really a complete test. There's not really one skill set that really jumps out over the others. All of them are very important to varying degrees. But I will say that driving accuracy is probably not one of the most predictive skill sets this week, just because the rough is really not very penal. There's This is much more of a second shot golf course. There are some bunkers off the fairway that can be kind of dangerous. Whether sometimes they're in the middle of the fairway, so you have to avoid that, or just off to the side. But yeah, in general, it is a second shot golf course. You need to be able to hit a lot of greens and regulation, and and if you do miss a green, you need to be able to get up and down. Around the green game can be kind of important this week, especially if you miss in the bunkers. The bunkers on this course are pretty treacherous in comparison to some of the other places that they play on the PGA Tour. Definitely some of the more difficult bunkers that they play. And there are also some runoff areas that your ball may collect into that you need to get up and down from with chipping. So yeah, just being very proficient with the approach clubs and creating a lot of opportunities for birdie is going to be pretty important at this golf course. Just so you can avoid the dangerous areas. And since there's not really much of a penalty for missing the fairway. But yeah, that's pretty much the golf course. It really kind of takes a complete test. And we've seen that from some of the previous winners here, like Corey Connors. He's won here twice, and he's never really a player that has had like an amazing short game, but he is a great ball striker, creates a lot of opportunities on the approach shots. So it's a type of player like that can really do well here, or if you're somebody who's more of a short game specialist like Denny McCarthy. I mean, he had a great week last year here. Shooting a course record, I believe, or close to it, to get into a playoff with Akshay Bhatia. So yeah, no, that was good for him. But yeah, no, I think this is overall kind of an underrated event. It's a decent golf course, and it does provide some great finishes. But yeah, after that, let's just kind of get into the picks. First off, we got Tommy Fleetwood. And I'm on Fleetwood again after a disappointing week at the Valspar, where he was the favorite. But he does play well at this course. He played well here last year in his first start here, having a T7th finish in his debut. But yeah, everything I said about Fleetwood in the Valspar episode remains true. Fleetwood's iron play has been phenomenal, and that was really the one skill set at the Valspar that really faltered. He lost strokes on approach, and so that's what really kind of held him back from having a great week. I mean, he did finish tied for 16th, but I will say that it was mainly because of the putting. He had a great putting week, good week, and a good week around the greens and off the tee. So I mean, it's not really like he was completely abysmal. He was solid overall. So I do think Fleetwood does have a decent opportunity to bounce back this week. He's just playing so well this season, and it's just been very consistent overall. So he's a very safe bet, even though he obviously has never won on the PGA Tour. And if you're looking at the Masters this week, at next week, it probably wouldn't be the most ideal situation to get your first win the week before major. But I think if you're Tommy Fleetwood at this point, it doesn't really matter. You'll just take the wins when you can get them. So I think Fleetwood's a good bet for this week. This golf course does fit his game. We'll just see if he's able to kind of put it all together and have a great week. Patrick Cantlay is next on my betting card, and he's usually a guy I tell you guys that I'm betting as sort of a FOMO type bet, because he is my favorite player. But I do genuinely believe that he is a good betting value this week. He just has been in contention for many events over the past few months, including last season. He's been in good form overall. And especially in 2025, he's had some decent results at the Genesis Invitational. He was deep in contention at Torrey Pines. He played well at the Players, having a really great week. And even though not really doing much on Sunday, had a great finish. And even at the American Express, he had a very solid finish that week as well. So I think Patrick Cantlay is very close to snagging a victory, whether it be this week or, in any other type of event. He's just playing great golf right now. And even though he has not played this golf course before, I do think it fits his eye very well. Over the past year, the main struggle for him for his standards has been the driving accuracy. It's been a lot more average than he's usually driving it. But overall, though, his iron play has been excellent this season, and the around the green game has been spectacular as well. So I really think that Patrick Cantlay is close to doing something, and at 18-1, just like Fleetwood, I feel like these guys are just playing way too good of golf right now to not be in contention, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I think they're both great. They're both great bets this week. They were the two best players ranking in my model, and so I feel like their odds for winning are being way discounted because of a guy like Ludwig Oberg and his popularity as a top tier player. But yeah, no, those are my main two guys. And then after that, I really like Alex Smalley. And Smalley, if you've been watching golf at all this year, you would know that he's been on top of every leaderboard, basically. I mean, he's finished in the top 21 or better in 6 of the 9 events that he's played so far this season. So I really do feel like that that Alex Smalley is a very good bet this week. He did just miss his last 2 cuts, but I think that Smalley is the type of player where he is just like, you should expect that kind of variance given his statistical profile and his pedigree as a player. Like, he's not a top tier player, but I mean, he is a rising player, I would say. And so at 70-1, I feel like that's a great price given how he's been playing this season. And there's no reason why I should doubt him in a field like this, as opposed to some of the other events where he's been priced similarly. Smalley has just been very consistent, and I really like that from him. And he just has a complete game. He's in the 59th percentile or above in all 4 strokes gained categories. So, I'm not really worried about the last 2 starts at all. I think he should do great this week. Then after that, I got Max McGreevy. And yeah, Max McGreevy was on the card last week, and he missed the cut after a really phenomenal and promising start to the tournament, and then just kind of faltered towards the end of his first round, even though he was doing great. I'm not really sure what happened. I think kind of the inconsistency with the weather really affected him, and this kind of stop and go nature of his week. So um, I'm not really going to give him a hard time for that. Everything I said about him last week is still true, and in every other week, like he's a decent ball striker with some concerns around the greens. Um, so even though the accuracy skill set might be a little mitigated this week, he still should be able to create a lot of opportunities. And at 125 to 1, I think that's a very solid price given his um, given his recent form this year. And just overall, yeah, no, he's been a winner on the Corn Ferry Tour, and um, he has a lot better win pedigree than that number in my mind. But yeah, moving on from that, I am on Danny Walker again as well, kind of echoing that similar, kind of thought. I do like the statistical profile of Danny Walker. He really bombs it off the tee, and he's great around the greens. So I really like that skill set. It seems as though the approach play is a little streaky. Sometimes he has some great weeks, sometimes he has some bad weeks. And the putting has also been a little streaky as well. Um, but it's not neither of these skills are bad enough to the point consistently where I'm concerned about them. It just seems like he's kind of a streaky player, at least at this level. But the consistency in the Corn Ferry Tour and the upside that he showed at the Players gives me a lot of confidence. And at 250 to 1, I mean, I see no reason not to take him. He's playing great golf, and so he should continue to do well at some point. And then after that, I got Kevin Roy. Kevin Roy is kind of similar to the Rico Hoey notion last week. I mean, Hoey's definitely probably a better player, I'd say, but the distance between him and Roy is, not that great in my mind. Kevin Roy is a decent ball striker. He has some capable length off the tee. He's in the 68th percentile in that category. And then he's a 65 percentile iron player, so he does have some proficiency there. Again, also it's like the putting and the around the green game are pretty abysmal, but he does have some decent ability getting up and down from the bunkers. He's above average there. So I think there's a lot to like about his profile, and kind of like Hoey, when he does putt well, he does have a great finish. I mean, he's had 3 top 20 finishes, including a tie for 6 at the Puerto Rico Open this year. So I really do feel like Kevin Roy does have a decent chance um, to to do something if he has a good putting week. So I feel like 300 to 1 is just such a low barrier of entry that, I think it's a good number. And I don't really see the distance between a player like him and Hoey being all that great. So yeah, no, I think he's a good bet for this week, and I like those odds. Then I have Carson Young, and he's another player that's at 300 to 1. And the thing about Carson Young, if you've really followed his game at all since 2023, he's really very kind of interesting player. He has some weird spike weeks, and he's kind of hard to peg, but he's very accurate off the tee. He's in the 94th percentile in accuracy. So while that skill set might not really be all that important this week, it's really about the iron play. He's a pretty average iron player, ranking in like the 54th percentile or above in the approach shots from 100 yards and out. So from those longer distances, which he typically has to hit from because of his lack of distance off the tee, he's been pretty capable. And it's really just with the around the green game. I mean, he ranks in the 6th percentile around the greens. That's not really all that encouraging. And the putter has been pretty bad too this season, especially from outside of 5 feet. From inside 5 feet, he's been great. So, as long as he's hitting the flag stick, we should be okay. But I'm just joking. But yeah, he overall though, it's like he's also a very streaky player. He has some like huge spike weeks where he typically can be in contention. just because of his proficiency with the ball striking. But overall, though, it's like it hasn't really been all that great of a year for him. That being said, the last few weeks, like he has had some good results, like a tie for 10th finish at the Puerto Rico Open, and then also, he had a great ball striking week at the Players, but just really didn't do well around the greens. So I think with him, at 300 to 1, it's worth seeing if he can put up a good result here after some positive signs. I like where the ball striking's at. It's just a matter of can he make enough putts and can he not be abysmal around the greens. And then finally, I got Bronson Burgoon again this week, and the main reason why I'm back on him is that he wasn't terrible last week. He was not abysmal in that field. He put back-to-back 71s, and honestly, he gained a little bit of strokes on approach. So he was pretty average with the approach clubs, which is a good sign, especially with some struggles off the tee. He's been really struggling with his accuracy lately, probably because of his medical issues. But the around the green game usually has been pretty consistent. Last week it was not very good. It's really the putting and the accuracy are the main concerns with him. But overall, though, I don't really see a player that should be priced this low on the odds board. Like he's 2,000 to 1. It's not necessarily that I think he has like an amazing chance to win. It's just that he's just so discounted. It's just kind of mind-boggling. Even though I understand why, it's like he hasn't really played and he's missed most of his cuts and he's hurt probably. So, I mean, I get why the odds are where they're at. It's probably not going to do anything. But as I said last week, he's had some positive results at the American Express specifically over the past few years. And he's had some decent finishes over his career in Texas. So I think that this is a place where he has some familiarity. He knows kind of how his game can fit here. With the approach play being encouraging, I wouldn't be all that shocked if he at least had like a top 40 or something like that, maybe even a top 20. So I don't know. So I think it's at least worth it for those bets. And yeah, so I'm on Bronson Burgoon again. Wish me luck. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it for this week. Kind of a big card heading up to Augusta next week, but I feel close to a big week. Hopefully it's this one, to kind of get into the Masters with some steam. That'd be really exciting. So thank you so much for listening or reading or whatever you're doing. And I hope you enjoy this week at the Valero Texas Open, and good luck, Futale.